Coming up on the show, the battle over birthright citizenship remains hot in the wake of a major Supreme Court ruling. We're going to take a look at where that debate sits right now as a presidential executive order is about to kick into gear. Also, millions of Americans could be on the verge of facing smaller grocery budgets after President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill was signed into law. Find out how it could impact you right here in the metro area. And get ready for plenty of celebrities and comic book icons to descend on downtown Atlanta this weekend. We're going to have a preview of a major convention with the Incredible Hulk, Lou Ferrigno, showing up on the show. This is The Take. Let's get it. Hello and welcome. I'm Chesley McNeil, and this is The Take, where we go above and beyond the headlines and we look at the why and how stories are impacting you and your community. We invite the experts in to share their take as well and try to have a little bit of fun as well. All right, let's get started with this. Look around Metro Atlanta. You may start to see less of a federal footprint on its offices. This is a part of Trump administration's move to cut back on what it finds as underused, outdated, and expiring leases. Here now to offer some insight is Chris Godfrey. He's with the commercial real estate agency Advision Young?
Or Avison Young.
Avison Young. Okay, all right.
That's
Thank
right.
you so much. All right, Chris, thanks so much for being on the show with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so when it comes to federal government starting to pull out millions of square foot of office space, how big of a ripple effect does this take place in Metro Atlanta?
Absolutely. So Metro Atlanta is in the top 6 markets of federal leases. Avison Young put together a report because we couldn't find it anywhere else, where we've put together all the GSA leases across the country, and there's over 5.5 million square feet that have been canceled year to date. And Georgia ranks number 6 with 256,000 feet canceled year to date, which is significant.
Yeah, sounds like it. What kind of buildings or landscapes or landlords are being affected or hit hardest by these cancellations?
So initially, it's most of the Class B or older product, and so some of that we'll continue to see, but 120,000 feet with the CDC, and then the Fish and Wildlife with 35,000 feet. Those were some of our biggest ones earlier this year.
What do we see when these cuts come to not just for the core downtown locations, but some of the suburb areas as well?
Well, what's interesting is we have a very busy suburban office market. We're busy with activity with office tenants, but then when you have these GSA leases that are rolling or are at risk, it puts landlords at risk for what do they do next. There's not that many large tenants looking for that quality of space or just that market in general. So it does put a question mark as to what becomes of those assets. And a lot of times that means, how do you reposition it? How do you reinvest in those buildings?
Yeah. Do you expect this to change how cities recruit for and retain federal agencies in their business districts?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the GSA leases a lot of times have a provision where the government can actually switch entities that are in that lease, which will be interesting to watch because a landlord might have signed on one agency thinking it was maybe the education department, and it could trade with a different agency that maybe doesn't go with its tenant mix as quite as well. So it'll be an interesting thing for communities to see. And then obviously, how can the government fill those spaces or ensure that a community is stabilized? You really want to make sure you're taking care of your communities, that those leases are being rolled over at.
Yeah. Your team developed a tracker to help monitor this shift. What kind of insight can property owners get from the data that you guys covered?
Well, what's fascinating is this downsize really started in the Obama administration, but then with Doge earlier this year in Q1 is when a lot of this caught the news waves as there was an acceleration. So it has been a long-term trend, but one thing that we're talking with landlords is how do we look at your risk and how do we minimize that going forward?
Yeah. Can the tool figure out what areas would be cut next?
So the tool has what's called hard and soft areas. So in a GSA lease, you have the hard term, which is the dedicated lease amount, and then you have the soft term, which is the government can give an X amount time notice to exit their lease. And so as more leases get into that soft term, they're more at risk. And so that's how we're able to talk to our clients about that soft term. And there's 1.3 million square feet entering into that soft term in 2025. It's not likely all these will be canceled, especially as the government return to office mandates continue. But there is a risk there that we're able to help our clients look at.
Do you see it going that way? You think it will go that way, or how optimistic are you about it not going that way? I should ask.
Well, you see companies like AT&T that gave back a lot of square footage, and then they have to go back to market and lease back hundreds of thousands of feet because they have return to office mandates. Traffic's back in Atlanta, as you know, and I think with that, people are going back to their office. I think going back to the office is different. They want a good environment to work out of, but also if you cut all of these leases, people have to go to work somewhere. So I think you move big, but then you kind of pull back because your people still have a place to work.
So in a situation like this, well, I guess in your case, having to find these places and get other businesses in there, those kind of things, what's the best route to take?
So get ahead of it. We're talking with our clients, what is your exposure? How do we get ahead of it? How do you start marketing it? Or how do you start having early conversations with the agency that's in your building to see if they're using it? What is their use of that space? Because if they are using it, the chances of it staying off the chopping block are much better. So we're just saying get ahead of it and have early conversations. And then if there is a risk there, let's figure out a market study for, what other businesses are around you, what are economic ripples that we could do, or is there opportunity for redevelopment, multifamily, retail, because Atlanta is a market to be in, but certainly when you have this much space at risk, and then that doesn't even account for the buildings GSA owns, we're really hopeful that the government does take into consideration the community in which these spaces are leased or owned so that they can take care of our citizens.
Yeah. All right, Chris Godfrey, really appreciate you joining us today, and have a great weekend.
Thanks so much. You too.
All right, take care now. All right, folks, a hot one out there today. It's going to be very, very hot, as a matter of fact. We're looking at temperatures up to 94 degrees for an afternoon high today. Plenty of sunshine, at least early on. We will get some of those scattered showers, thunderstorms popping up on us. I'm thinking after about 3 o'clock today is when we'll start to see that. Over the weekend, it's pretty much the same. You got a 30% chance both Saturday and Sunday for scattered showers and thunderstorms. 95 degrees will be the high on Saturday, Sunday 94. We're looking at 95 for the high on Monday as we start the work week. I think a little bit more of that tropical moisture will come our way as we start the work week as well. And so right now, giving it a 40% chance, we'll say 40 to 50% chance for those scattered showers Monday and Tuesday. And then some drier air tries to work in here by Wednesday and Thursday. But that doesn't mean much cooler air. It does go down a touch. You're down to 93 by Wednesday, Thursday, 94. Still hot, still very humid, of course. And so the heat wave continues, folks. You're going to need your shades today and also some rain gear just in case you're hit by one of those scattered thunderstorms. Don't go anywhere. You're watching The Take, and we're back right after this. Welcome back to the show. News came out yesterday that President Trump is now dealing with a bit of a health concern. Joining us now is NBC Washington correspondent Alice Barr, here to talk more about it. Alice, talk to us about the president's condition and how the White House is reacting to it.
So the diagnosis, Chesley, is called chronic venous insufficiency, and the White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt announced that he has this yesterday. She called it a benign and common condition. And the news comes after images of apparent swelling in President Trump's ankles and bruising on his hands have begun to draw attention. The administration noted that there are no signs of more serious health concerns. Medical experts say the president's condition that causes swelling of the legs because of blood pooling in the veins occurs in up to half of all adults over 70. And as for the bruising on his hands, they just pointed to how much he shakes hands and the fact that he takes aspirin, something that's common in folks of a certain age. The White House released a physician's letter noting that after testing of his heart, of his kidneys, that the president remains in excellent condition and in excellent health, Chesley.
Shaking hands. They're putting on shaking hands. Okay, all right. Well,
a lot.
a lot. All right, let's pivot a little bit to the sex offender, the case of sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The Wall Street Journal says it has some new reporting about a letter that President Trump allegedly wrote to Epstein for his birthday. It's raising a lot of questions. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, this is a real talker, and we should say right away that NBC News has not seen or verified this letter, but the Wall Street Journal says it reviewed it and reports that it was in a leather-bound album put together by the Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell for his 50th birthday back in 2003. The letter contains typewritten text framed by the outline of a naked woman appearing to be hand-drawn in heavy marker. The text is a script of an imaginary conversation. In it, now President Trump says, quote, "We have certain things in common, Jeffrey." And it ends with the message, "Happy birthday. May every day be another wonderful secret." President Trump is calling this a fake letter, writing that, quote, "These are not my words, not the way I talk. Also, I don't draw pictures." The president now says he is going to sue Rupert Murdoch and the Wall Street Journal for putting this reporting out. So it's just raising a lot more questions. And apparently this is something that has been in some of the files that have been part of the Epstein investigation. The full files still, the Trump supporters, MAGA world, are still pressing for the whole thing to be released.
Yeah. Sounds like Congress is ready to take some action. What's the latest on the move from the Republicans and from Capitol Hill?
Yeah, so overnight, the House committee voted to advance a measure that's a resolution calling for more documents to be released in the case. They want to be on record with that. And President Trump himself has now made a new order to Attorney General Pam Bondi, telling her to produce any and all pertinent grand jury testimony subject to court approval in this case. And Pam Bondi quickly responded, saying that she would ask the court to move as soon as today to unseal those transcripts. And President Trump said that he was making this order because of what he called the ridiculous amount of publicity given to the Epstein sex trafficking case. He's been trying to move past the many questions raised by frustrated MAGA supporters who, again, have been demanding that the full Epstein files be released. And it's something that he made a campaign promise and that they feel that they are owed. They are now, some of them, talking about the potential for a cover-up. That is not something that the Trump team wants to be involved with at all. And so now prominent lawmakers pushing for more transparency here as well.
All right. More to come, I'm sure. Alice, thanks so much for joining us and giving us that update. All right. Plenty more stories for you right after the break, folks. This is The Plus right here on 11 Live Plus and the ATL. We're back right after this. Well, just days into his second term as president, Donald Trump signed an executive order aimed at ending automatic birthright citizenship for children born in the U.S. if either parent is a U.S. citizen or lawfully permanent resident. Then last month, the U.S. Supreme Court issued a ruling which allowed the executive order to potentially take effect on July 27th in states not legally challenging it. This now has many people wondering what exactly is going to happen when this order begins to kick in. Joining us now is locally based attorney Giovanni Diaz, who's handled hundreds of deportation cases in his time as a lawyer. Giovanni, welcome to the show.
Good morning.
All right, let's get started with the basics here. How strong is the legal foundation for the birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment?
Well, I think most legal scholars feel like the executive order doesn't have really good standing. I think the issue is they're trying to make a distinction between two terms that are within the 14th Amendment, and that specific clause of the 14th Amendment, right, which says naturally born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And I think the issue is they're trying to make a distinction that if you're born to parents who aren't subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, then you aren't a U.S. citizen. But as we all know, especially seeing out in the open, that the undocumented immigrants are clearly subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. We've seen them detained, arrested. They've always been charged criminally. They are also required to abide by just about every law in the United States, may it be criminal, may it be civil. So, to make the argument that they're not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, I think most legal scholars feel that they're not going to win that argument, and that ultimately the plaintiffs in these cases will ultimately prevail.
Yeah. Does this new executive order have power to override that?
I don't think so. I think right now there's the Supreme Court decision that came down late in June. It kind of made it a little bit more difficult for plaintiffs to bring suits against the executive order in the federal government. But very quickly after that, using sort of the guidance of the Supreme Court, there was another nationwide injunction issued. So right now there is a nationwide injunction on the executive order. So up to now, although, the Supreme Court has sort of weighed in on some of the procedural issues, we haven't had a decision by the Supreme Court yet of the merits of the case. So I think most legal scholars, again, feel like once it gets to the merits of the case, that the plaintiffs will ultimately prevail, and the 14th Amendment will continue to provide citizenship for people born here in the United States.
All right. Attorney Diaz, for the families that you represent, what kind of fear or confusion are they expressing right now?
Well, initially when the Supreme Court decision came down late June, people were asking, where is it that I could, where is it recognized? I mean, it basically threw the entire system of birthright citizenship into chaos. And frankly, I think that's part of the plan and the goal of the administration, right? Chaos causes fear, fear causes mistrust, people lose motivation, people start to consider self-deportation. So it's very, very clear that, that there's a possibility that prevailing really isn't the ultimate goal, that the ultimate goal is to cause chaos and to make people feel less uncomfortable to be here, cause doubt and make people reconsider wanting to be here in the United States, which frankly, me on a personal level sounds pretty bad.
Yeah. Speaking of chaos, if some states have it and other states don't, what type of chaos will that create?
Oh yeah, I mean it's obvious. What kind of people won't be sure whether or not they're U.S. citizens based on the region or the place that they're born. And I mean, some of my colleagues have even considered advising people to consider where you ultimately have children if that's a concern for you. So I don't think we're at that point yet, and I think ultimately that's a consideration that the Supreme Court will make. Right, yeah. The Supreme Court. With the chaos that this is ultimately creating, with the confusion within the states, hopefully the Supreme Court will eventually end the debate.
Gotcha. All right. Giovanni Diaz, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for your insight.
Take care.
All right. Stay right where you are, folks. Coming up on the show, we're going to check in with GDOT to get the latest on road projects that could impact your weekend plans. Stay right there. We'll be back. All right, welcome back to the show. Heads up if you drive on Atlanta's Metro West Side, right? Get ready for some considerable work being done to try to fix one of the area's most notorious bottlenecks. Here joining us is Kyle Collins with GDOT. Welcome back to the show, Kyle.
Yeah, good morning.
All right, we're talking about I-285, I-20 West Exchange. Why is this such a brutal bottleneck for drivers?
Right. Well, annually, it's on that list that GDOT doesn't want to be on. It's currently ranked as one of the top 10 freight bottlenecks in the United States. So this is the second biggest investment GDOT's ever made. So we're going to get it off that list, make it better for freight drivers, but also the everyday travelers, everyday commuters in the area. One of the biggest perks of the project and what's going to go away is those pesky left-hand entrance and exit ramps that folks currently have to navigate. So that's really one of the biggest perks. Obviously, there's dozens of other things and other improvements, flyover ramps, collector distributor lanes, basically just making it safer, more efficient, and removing some of those existing conflict points that slow you down.
Yeah. You guys are going to be doing some controlled rock blasting. What's all involved in that?
Yeah, so this is really kind of the kickoff of what we consider major construction activities. So because of that, for safety, starting on Monday from roughly 10:30 to 12, there's going to be 20 to 30-minute periods of traffic will have to be held or paced. Specifically, that's affecting 285 southbound around Bolton Road. But as we know, if we hold traffic for any amount of time, no matter what direction, it can affect other travel ways, 20, 285 on the other side of the corridor. So something to be aware of starting Monday, that there may be some impacts when you're driving through Monday through Thursday.
What's the time frame again, did you mention?
So roughly 10:30 to 12 is when we're allowing the contractor to do this activity. It's very safe, very controlled, and that is to allow us to start construction in the 285 I-20 East area.
At night?
No, this is during the day.
This is going to be during the day. Okay. All right. Yeah, okay, absolutely. Yeah. So 10:30 a.m. until noon is when you guys will be doing that. All right. So what steps are you guys going to take to minimize disruptions that will take place during that mid-morning hour?
Right. We're trying to do the advanced awareness, utilize a media partner such as yourself, of course. We encourage folks to always look at their navigation apps, plan ahead that there may be some delay if you're traveling before lunch. There shouldn't be back-to-back days on like Monday and Tuesday per se next week where it'll happen. They should do an every other day, but we just allow them that time from 10:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. they're obviously going to be working on the southeastern area that we're talking about first, around where that existing salt barn is for folks that see that structure standing out there. Then there's going to be different spots that they will move later in the summer, but this activity will continue off and on into the fall as construction ramps up.
So obviously people should probably stay away from this area. You got any other detours that people could take to get around?
I mean, just pack a little bit of extra time, pack your patience, as we say. You know, it shouldn't be a crazy impact. It's just going to slow you down just a little bit. But again, if you feel like you want to get around it and don't want that headache, you can utilize our 511 Georgia app to plan alternative routes, or obviously your favorite navigation app. We just hope folks are looking forward to this project. Yeah. It's over $1 billion investment. Like we said, it's the second biggest investment GDOT's ever made, and we're about to be very busy on the west side.
Yeah, about to be very busy. So this is just the beginning, right? What else can we look forward to seeing in 2026?
Right, so having enhancements there, and you'll see some additional promotions of some major rehab that we'll have to the pavement structure on 285 coming through this area. Obviously, we've been to the public to get input on our more long-range express lanes plans for managed toll lanes in the corridor leading down to this interchange. So a lot happening for us to try to enhance commute options, enhance reliability, and enhance safety on a daily basis on 285.
All right, Kyle Collins, GDOT, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for giving us the heads up. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Y'all be safe.
All right, do the same. SNAP benefits could be in jeopardy thanks to the One Big Beautiful Bill. We're going to discuss that right after the break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the show. When President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill was signed into law earlier this month, one thing which was now set to take a hit is the payments from Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP benefits. Kiplinger reports that as a result of the bill, SNAP program funding will be cut by 20%. That'll lead to the loss of an estimated $230 billion over 10 years. Work requirements are expanded to cover adults up to age 64. That's up from 50 years old, and parents with children ages 14 and older. States will also be required to shoulder a greater share of the SNAP cost or risk losing federal support entirely. Here with more perspective is Craig Gunderson, an economic professor at Baylor University in Texas, who's actually in California right now. He's also the creator of Feeding America's MAP Meal Gap Project. Welcome to the show.
Great. Thank you so much. My daughter lives there in Atlanta and enjoys your show, so I'm really happy to be on it.
Man, thank you for joining us. Yes, and thank you for that. Appreciate it. Let's start off with your reaction of the scale of these SNAP cuts.
Okay, so I'm a huge fan of SNAP. SNAP is the most successful government program at alleviating food insecurity in our country. It's a critical component of our social safety net. And as you may know, in 2021, there was a large increase in SNAP benefits, which really benefited this program. These cuts could potentially be of worry, but from my perspective is a lot of these cuts really won't either take place for a couple of years now, or just involve switching the costs from the federal government onto states. So from my perspective is on the ground, this won't have much of an impact in the near term. And then in a couple of years, we can kind of see what's going to happen.
Are you saying that because the states would just have to kick in the cost? I mean, would it just take that much time for the federal cuts to be felt?
Right. There's two things about that. The first thing is with respect to the cuts it used to be 100% of all SNAP benefits in Georgia were funded by the federal government. Now what's going to happen is in a state like Georgia, I don't know the exact amount, but Georgia would have to pick up 10 to 20% of the cost of SNAP benefits, which would then, but they would still have to pay those costs. So in other words, instead of the federal government paying it, Georgia is paying it, and that could cause some issues in Georgia. Absolutely. Yeah. The work requirements do not come into place for a couple of years yet, so we'll have to wait to see what those impacts are.
Gotcha. All right, walk us through. Families are just barely getting by now, and so when you get these cuts into place, what could be taking place after that?
So my main concern is whenever I like to talk about some of these issues is one of the key determinants of food insecurity in the United States are food prices. So what we want to do is to really make sure food prices stay low. Atlanta has relatively low food prices, which is fantastic, but making efforts to keep food prices low is critical. When food prices do rise, SNAP plays a particularly important role because it allows families to purchase food that they otherwise wouldn't be able to purchase. We saw the critical role that SNAP played during the food price inflation in 2022 and 2023. And so if anything impedes that ability for SNAP to step in during hard economic times, that's really going to be a problem. My hope is that SNAP will still serve as a critical component of the social safety net, but the main thing is that there'll be work requirements in a couple of years that are binding, but also in the near term, let's hope that Georgia continues to encourage people to be on SNAP and to enroll in SNAP.
Yeah. Ahead of the bill being signed, the White House put out this statement on SNAP benefits being impacted. Let's take a listen. Only 28% of able-bodied adults on SNAP work. The One Big Beautiful Bill promotes work, responsibility, and restores SNAP to serve the truly needed. SNAP enrollments remain high even in a strong economy, including millions of able-bodied adults who could work. What is your reaction to this?
I don't like that terminology that they're using in the following sense, is that there are some assistance programs which do discourage work. For example, if you make $1 more than the threshold, you lose all your benefits. SNAP isn't like that. With SNAP as my income increases, I get closer to the threshold, my benefit levels fall gradually. So you don't have the sharp, what we call a cliff when you get to the benefit. So SNAP doesn't discourage work. So from my perspective, is this whole notion that people aren't working because of SNAP is just false. People may not be working for other reasons, but it's not due to SNAP. So I don't like it that SNAP is the one taking the brunt of this. From my perspective, SNAP is, as I mentioned at the outset, an anti-hunger program, an extraordinarily successful anti-hunger program. It's not a make-work program or an employment program. So from my perspective, these work requirements have no place in the context of SNAP.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm against that.
I got you. What should the average person listening to this right now take away about SNAP and maybe something they didn't know before?
I think the most important thing people should come away from SNAP is that this is an amazingly successful government program. I'm not a fan of all government programs. Some work well, some work not quite as well. But SNAP, study after study after study, has shown that this is an extraordinarily successful program at alleviating hunger in America, and we need to keep this program strong and in good shape.
All right, Professor Greg Gunderson, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for your insight. Really valuable information for us. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for your interest in this important topic.
All right. Folks, we are looking at I-85 Northside Drive in Fulton County, and looking pretty good right now. I'm not trying to be Rachel Cox Rosen, but looks pretty good. Traffic seems to be getting along fine, but we do know that there's some work that's going to be taking place there. As we said earlier, the work is ongoing at 285 and 20 West interchange, meant to fix one of the worst bottleneck areas on the map, right, throughout the United States, with overall work mostly wrapped up by 2030. All right, so let's bring in the Gridlock Guy. He's all over the roads here in the metro Atlanta. Doug Turble, thanks so much for joining us, man. Right now, you're in traffic, in the traffic impact tracker. I know it's a lot to say, but you get to say it every day. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
Hey, you know, on some mornings we just call it the yuck truck, all right? Because my gosh, we send some bad stuff. Today it's just been medium traffic. We saw a couple of big incidents this morning as we covered on 11Alive, 11Alive Plus, and on the stream and on ATL and everything. But overall, it was a lighter than normal Friday morning. So we're sitting in, maybe 45, 50 mile an hour traffic here, not too far from our studios on 85 South below Georgia 400.
I don't know if you got a chance to check out or hear what GDOT said earlier about that 285 I-20 West interchange, that project. What's your take on the work that's going to be done there?
Well, it's way overdue, and that is no shade on the DOT. They can only do one of these at a time. We've covered extensively here at 11Alive, and I've talked some about in my Gridlock Guy traffic column about the needs that were made and improved on the 285 and I-20 interchange into Cobb County on the east side, and they finished a lot of that. There's still a lot more to go, but the main parts on the ramps have been put in place. Now they need to move to an interchange that I think a lot of people, especially our truckers, our freight operators, would argue is even worse, and that's that one that Kyle Collins just mentioned in Fulton County. And what he mentioned was so flawed about it, Chesley, is those ramps that come in on the left-hand side. 2 of the 4 ramps in that interchange, or 2 of the 8 ramps in that interchange, come in on the left side of the freeway, and they're single-lane ramps, a lot of them, and there's so many trucks, so they back up so much. And what you have, anytime something touches I-285, you have problems because 285 affects so many other things. And so on I-20 at 285 in Fulton County, what you have is all these trucks that are trying to circulate town. They're not allowed to go inside the perimeter, right? Unless they have a delivery, at least they're not supposed to. And they get backed up on these ramps, and then the ramps back up, well, then that backs up 285. And then it's a butterfly effect. So it's much needed work. And be staying tuned to 11Alive, everybody. On Monday, we're going to have reporters covering, including Rachel Cox-Rosen and the morning traffic team, the effect of what that blasting is going to do. They'll have to stop lanes in the midday hours to actually safely blow that rock out to build the interchange.
Yeah, he did say that, so we'll be stay tuned to hear that. Let's shift the focus a little bit to your most recent Gridlock Guy column. It was a very busy week for the metro area. We had the All-Star Game at Truist, we had Beyonce at the Benz, we had WWE Evolution at State Farm. Describe what you saw with this concert sport nexus taking place and going into chaos.
Hey, yeah, that's exactly right on the title for sure. And the thing is we have to focus on this stuff and the traffic impact. But Atlanta does this a couple of times a year at least. We have Taylor Swift, Kendrick Lamar, now Beyonce concerts, and they come through every couple of years, and it usually coincides with something else. And a lot of times people remember the 96 Olympics. Anybody watch remember the 96 Olympics? We scared people out of town then. I was a kid, but the traffic was great actually. And in this event, enough people got scared off the roads, if you will, just a 10 to 15% decrease. Things moved well. There were some hiccups on MARTA, but largely people could take MARTA because it was a Mercedes-Benz event with Beyonce. And even in Cobby, they have so many places to park that circle Truist Park. I think things went as well as could be expected in most instances.
Yeah. Yeah, and that wild weekend. I mean, yeah, it sounds like a disaster when you mention all those particular events. Yeah, you know. So, but this the metro area has major events coming down the pike. What do you think about the World Cup coming and that kind of thing? Do you think we're equipped and we're ready, or do we need to make more improvements?
I promise the Chamber and Commerce types do not pay me to say this, but I do think we have infrastructure that's ready. And an event as marquee as the World Cup means it's an impetus to build more of that stuff. That we've got to be a good steward, though, of the things we have, and that needs to matter more than just during the World Cup. So I think that's going to be the challenge for our city leaders, is not just cleaning up and tidying up when company comes over.
Real quick, what are you talking about in your next column?
Next one's going to be tire safety and how much tread you should have, especially for our young teen drivers. And you can find that on 11alive.com here Sunday.
All right, thanks a lot, Doug Turble. Really appreciate it. The Gridlock Guy. You can always check out Doug's column, The Gridlock Guy, each week right there on 11alive.com, just as he mentioned. All right, could federal cuts mean we say goodbye to Elmo? We're going to talk about that coming up right after the break. Welcome back. Believe it or not, Big Bird could be on the White House's chopping block. CNN's Maribel Aber joins us now from the NASDAQ market in New York. And Maribel, the White House passed this huge spending cuts package, and the vote, we understand, was very close.
Good morning, Chesley. Well, massive federal budget cuts are now heading to President Trump's desk for his signature. In the overnight hours, the GOP-controlled House gave final passage to a bill that slashes more than $9 billion from previously approved government spending. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which funds NPR and PBS, will lose $1.1 billion, and foreign aid will be stripped of $8 billion, including massive cuts to USAID and other global aid programs. One Bush-era initiative that funds efforts to combat HIV and AIDS was removed from the bill in recent days. The package, which was requested by the White House, was sent through Congress using a rarely used process called rescissions. This allowed it to bypass the 60-vote threshold in the Senate. It narrowly passed both chambers with only Republican votes. The final tally in the House was 216 to 213, Chesley.
Wow, that was close. All right, streaming just got more expensive, and Peacock is ruffling some feathers, I understand.
Well, they're set to raise prices by $3 starting July 23rd. The ad-supported premium plan will now be $10.99 a month, while Premium Plus will bump up to $16.99 a month. Peacock will also begin testing a select tier targeting TV lovers, featuring current seasons of shows on NBC and Bravo, plus an assortment of library titles priced at $7.99 a month. Peacock reported $41 million in paid subscribers for the first quarter this year. Forecasted will outstream a number of rivals combined next year. You know, Chesley, streaming keeps getting more expensive, and platforms are betting you'll still pay for what you want to watch, even if that means paying twice for the same show on a different app.
Wow.
Chesley.
Yeah. Finally, ChatGPT getting a boost here. It's going to now make decisions for us.
Okay, technophobes, brace yourselves. A new ChatGPT update released Thursday lets the AI act and think on your behalf. OpenAI unveiled a new feature. It allows the popular chatbot to execute more complex actions on a user's request. For example, you can ask it to look at your calendar and brief you on upcoming meetings, or plan and buy ingredients for a dinner party. In one demonstration, Chesley, ChatGPT was prompted to help plan an entire wedding, down to details like dress code options for guests and hotel bookings. OpenAI says there are limitations. The chatbot can't write or send emails without user oversight. It's trained to refuse high-risk tasks like bank transfers. You got tech giants racing to develop their own. Google made a flurry of AI-related announcements at a conference in May. Apple made an update to Siri that would allow it to use apps on a user's behalf. That was delayed indefinitely. Chesley, best case scenario? It acts more like a co-pilot than autopilot, smart enough to help you steer but not take your hands off the wheel, because no matter what, there can only be one Chesley McNeil.
Oh, man. I was hoping you were going to say it could help me get dressed in the morning. If they can do that, like put my clothes on
We'll give you
me.
choices.
I know the choices, but I wanted to put my clothes on me. I just want to wake up and it just put some clothes on me. That's what I'm waiting on. The Jetsons.
You want a butler?
Yes. That's what I need. Maribel, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
You got it.
All right, coming up on the show, the Incredible Hulk will be visiting Atlanta this weekend and bringing a few more super friends with him. Find out why when we return. Stay right there. Well, if you spot more superheroes than usual in downtown Atlanta this weekend, you're not imagining things. There'll be capes and lightsabers and cosplay taking over the Georgia World Congress Center this weekend as the ATL Comic and Pop Culture Convention powers up for a star-studded, fan-fueled takeover. Here now to get us in the mood is one of the celebrities lined up to appear, Lou Ferrigno, retired bodybuilder and actor, best known for his portrayal as the Incredible Hulk. Still looking good. Still looking very good.
You should be at the Comic Con here. What are you doing over there? We want you here. See all the superheroes, get painted green, Q&A, have fun.
You're here in Atlanta right now, right?
Yes, I'm in the hotel. I'm looking at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which I'm a big, huge sports fan too.
Wow. Well, we are certainly a fan of yours. How does it feel for you to know that generations of fans, parents, kids are lining up just to see and talk to you?
It's great because it's been almost 50 years, especially that I meet three generations. They come up, they ask me questions, especially how the Hulk affected their lives, especially my physicality all these years to promote fitness and bodybuilding. It's that instant gratification. I just have a wonderful time with the fans. A show like this, they have over 100 celebrities expecting a huge turnout, and I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Why did you choose Atlanta? I know you're a huge sports fan. Why did you choose Atlanta to come to this one and take part in it?
Well, I do different content. I'm invited to come here because Atlanta is like one of my favorite places, especially, the people here, the hospitality, and besides the weather, it's a little too hot for me because I'm from California. But I just love the people here. I think the people here are just great.
Man, I watch the show. I mean, I got to admit, and every time I hear, din, 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 that's when you would appear.
It goes on forever because every episode had a laser compelling message about life. And when you watch it, you get fired up. But all of us, most of us, we have that little Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde fashion side of us. And that's why we want to just, the Hulk expresses our anger and demon.
We're looking at a little bit of the video now. Man, you're a big-time hero to a lot of my friends, of course. Did you ever imagine back in the 70s that the Hulk would still be such a big icon in pop culture today?
No, because back then I was hoping that, or as it's the two pilots that'll be successful, that people pay enough attention to it, that would have some legs that would develop into a TV series. But I expect that we have now the Marvel Universe, and we have all these different Comic Con. I mean, when I was a kid, if I had a con like this, I'd be camping out for 3 months before, sleeping outside. I'm telling you.
Oh, yeah. How did you get into this role? How did that come about?
Well, they called me. I was training for the 1977 Mr. Olympia competition. So they had another actor. He didn't fit the part, so they invited me for the audition. And when I went down for the audition, they said, we have to paint you green. I said, I want to get painted green. So anyway, I went through the whole audition process and said, you're going to be filming the next day tomorrow. And the rest is history because it was the perfect time and place.
Wow, nice. You've been in front of the camera, obviously, and then you advocate behind the scenes as well for health and fitness. What keeps you motivated at this stage in your life to keep doing this?
It's all about consistency. Every day I try to compete with myself, be the best I can be, especially I have to eat good, to train good, to sleep good, and I don't overindulge in stuff like, taking like too many supplements, too many the bad food, stuff like that.
Yeah. All right, so you're always going to be the Hawk to me, and for a lot of people, you're always going to be the Hawk. And have you seen these new Marvel movies with the Hawk in it?
Yeah, I think it's great because what gets me very excited, I see all these A-list actors now playing the superhero because now everybody, especially kids, everybody loves the Hulk, especially the Marvel Universe. Because years ago you had a comic convention and you had limited TV series with Marvel actors, but now the general public knows everything about the Marvel Universe and the Endgame.
Oh, yeah, man. Everybody pays attention to the Easter eggs. They pay attention to everything. Now, will you appear green tomorrow? I know you didn't like getting painted green. Will you appear green tomorrow?
Now I'm going to appear today, tomorrow, and Sunday, just the way I am. People come up and they just put a smile on my face and just have a good time. I can't wait to see my fans.
Wow. I mean, yeah, a lot of people will be there to greet you, I'm sure. Like I said, you'll always be the Hawk to me. I mean, it was great. And you know, the saddest part of the show for me was when you'd hear that little piano solo, ding, 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 ding. Yeah. And you would be going away, you know, and then have to wait until you come back again.
You know, it's great. There's a guy named Dan Farr, he's the promoter of this show. He's coming to Atlanta because I've worked with Dan for years. He started the ATL Comic Con, but there's going to be a big spectacle this weekend. And I'm very excited to be part of that group.
Well, we're excited to have you here. And thanks so much for joining us on the show. Really appreciate you being here. And yeah, stick around as long as you like. You said you're a big sports fan. We got a lot of sports here. You're looking at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Okay. It's big, right?
Exactly. I'm looking at the stadium right now. Like that stadium, $1.6 billion. I can't believe the size of it.
Yeah.
But it's great especially for Atlanta to have this stadium.
Have you been inside yet?
Not yet. I can't wait.
There you go. All right. Well, we can't wait to see you. Lou Ferrigno, the Incredible Hawk on the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Man. Woo. The Incredible Hawk right there. So if you want to go and check out the show, it's running today through Sunday at the Georgia World Congress Center. Single-day passes start at $25. The prices for a 3-day pass start at $65. Kids 10 and under get in free with a paid adult. I may pay for some of y'all to go in there and meet the Hawk. You know what I mean? When we come back, we got a final look at your forecast, plus my final take. That could have been my final take right there. We'll be back right after this. Some like it hot. Yeah, and if you do, you want to stick around here, definitely, because it's going to be hot. 94 degrees for the afternoon high temperature. You factor in that humidity with it? Yep, it's getting up there, folks. It's going to feel over 100 right on through the weekend. We're looking at 95 and 94 degrees for the high temperature on Saturday and Sunday. The only bit of relief we'll find is from these afternoon isolated thunderstorms. Not very widespread, so only a few of us will receive them. And so over the weekend, only a few of us will get some relief briefly during the afternoon, and then the next day it's going to heat up once again. You notice we don't go anywhere. Next week, you start off with the 90-degree weather, 95 degrees on Monday, Tuesday, 95 as well. Looking at 93 by Wednesday and Thursday. The only difference is our chance for rain will start to go down a little bit by Wednesday and Thursday, but that doesn't mean it's going to be cooler. We're still going to have that humidity out there, so that 93 will feel like the upper 90s, 94 will feel like the upper 90s as well. So each and every afternoon, a chance for some scattered showers and thunderstorms. All right, before we go, my final take. You know, some are calling this amazing technology, while others find it just a little bit creepy. Yeah, for the 70th anniversary of Disneyland in California, they just debuted Walt Disney, A Magical Life. It's a 15-minute film about Walt Disney's life. Now, after the film goes away, the curtain opens and it disappears right there. You see that? That's an animatronic of the legendary filmmaker and theme park creator. For the first time, Disney Imagineers have created the company's founder in robotic form. Seeing this made critics teary-eyed, saying they nailed the facial expressions and his gestures and things like that, while others say they're disappointed because they need a redo, that they didn't nail it right. So some like it and some don't. Now, I must admit, I'm very curious because I want to see what it's like for myself. But with today's technology, as it becomes more and more realistic, especially creating our fallen greats, it scares me just a little bit. You know, I get afraid, you know, because it feels like they're bringing them back to life a little bit. So I just fall back in my seat a little bit, you know, I'm a little afraid. But I am curious to see it for myself. I want to know what you think as well, folks. That's all we got for you today. Make it a great day and a great weekend. And don't forget to encourage someone today to be like the Hawk.